Denver Sports presents the Mile High Hockey Podcast with Mike Evans, presented by Fort Comfort Gutters. Now here's your host with the latest on the Burgundy and Blue, Mike Evans.
Welcome into Mile High Hockey. She's Rachel Vigil. I'm Will Peterson. We are not Mike Evans, but we are happy to be with you on this Friday night before your holiday weekend gets going. Rachel, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited for Christmas. I'm like, all right, let's rev all this stuff up, you guys. I love the holiday season, so I'm good. What about you? Yourself, Will Peterson?
Yeah, I'm great. And, the Avalanche will play the Coyotes tomorrow night at Ball Arena and then get their own holiday break, NHL-mandated holiday break. I do think that's a good idea. I understand why the NBA plays on Christmas. I understand why the NFL plays on Christmas. But the NHL says, listen, we're probably not going to compete with those two leagues if we're just being fair. So you know what? Let's do a mandated holiday break. Let the players spend Christmas, the holidays, whatever they celebrate, at home with their families. I think that's cool from the league. I think it's important.
I love that. I mean, the season's already so long, and then when you're adding in taking time away from family members, it just adds like another level of stress almost to that point. I mean, even for media members, right? Like people that have to travel and go to every single game. It's not just the player on the team. So I love that. I love that the NHL is like, you know what? We're not going to compete with those two. We're going to put our players first in this situation and give them a much needed break because the season is so long.
Yes, it is a very long season. And speaking of a long season, the Avalanche had one of those games last night, Rachel, that was kind of like, if you win it, good. If you lose it, you were never supposed to lose it, so people would slam the panic button. The last place in the Eastern Conference, Ottawa Senators, come to town. Not a good hockey team. Just fired their head coach a few days ago. And the Avalanche find themselves down 4-2 late in the second period. And then Nathan MacKinnon gets his hat trick to tie it at 4, gets his fourth goal to win it 6-4 on an empty netter. I got to go through the history with you real quick, and then you tell me what's most impressive, okay?
I'm ready.
Last night, Nathan MacKinnon scored his 300th career goal. He's the fifth player in Avalanche Nordique's history to reach that milestone. Nathan MacKinnon became the first Avalanche player ever since they moved to Denver to score 4 goals in a hockey game, which blew my mind. And he also extended his point streak to 17 games in a row, tied for the longest in the NHL this season. As I was writing that story last night for DenverSports.com, it was like, MacKinnon. Rachel, which one of those three jumps out the most? Because they're all historic in a game the Avs needed to have.
Well, the 4 goals in one game is like, really? Like, holy cow, that's crazy. That stat definitely pops out to me just because I don't know, I would have assumed that somebody else would have put up at least 4 goals in a game. But wow, I mean, Nathan MacKinnon is such a baller. Like every single time you see him go out there, you have this like extra oomph in you, right? Just as a hockey fan in general, you're like, all right, he's out there. Like a play can definitely happen. But I mean, I think it has to be the fact that it was 4 goals. I'm sitting there watching and I'm like, oh, 3, the hat trick. All right, Nathan MacKinnon, way to go. And then he does the other one, and some of those like shots were snipes last night. And I'm like, of course, Nathan MacKinnon just being able to figure out ways and put the team on his back. And honestly, the hockey gods, I think we're like, listen, Nathan MacKinnon, we know you've been frustrated. We're going to gift you this one for the holidays.
Yeah, the empty netter was a gift. You're right, because he gets the first 3, gets the hat trick.
Yep.
The hat trick goal gets reviewed, which it was very clear or unclear if they were onside or offside. Yep. Luckily, the call on the ice stood, but you could hear Ball Arena hold its collective breath of like, oh, come on. He gets the hat trick. We all threw our hats, and it may not count. Like, come on. That wouldn't be any fun.
Okay, and wait. I need to ask you this.
That was a gift, yes.
Anytime I see a hat trick, I don't think I could throw my $50 hat onto the ice and know that I'm not going to get it back. Hats are too expensive nowadays. So, like, every time I see all the people throw it, I'm like, that is so crazy to me because they're so expensive.
I do think they go to charity, so maybe that would warm your heart a little bit. But I'm with you. Like, it would almost be tempting, especially when they're playing a bad team like Ottawa. And, I'm not saying a hat trick's likely, but say there's a 1 in 40 chance of a hat trick, some sort of a chance. What if you just brought like your most raggedy old hat and you even stuffed it in your hoodie, and if security stopped you and said, what's that? Said, it's my lucky hat trick hat. It's what's going on the ice. We all have that hat lying around our house that we'd be willing to part with, just not the hat we'd wear for a night out, to your point.
Yep. I just can't imagine every single time I see all the hats go onto the ice. That's the first thing that pops into my head is I'm like, those hats are so expensive. And people are just like, yep, here we go. But that's why we love sports, right? We're like, yep, it's all about the moment.
So you said it. I think it's the 4 goals too. I was absolutely stunned when I started seeing that stat on social media because you're telling me Joe Sakic never got 4 goals in a game? You're telling me Peter Forsberg never got 4 goals in a game? Milan Hajduk, Alex Tanguay, Gabe Landeskog, Mikko Rantanen. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's cool, but it's also like mind-boggling because it's a remarkable achievement. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But you would think a Joe Sakic would have had a hat trick where he also got an empty netter, and it just never happened.
That's crazy. I mean, I'm just going back to even like all the times we were talking about Mikko and what he's been able to do and how many points he's done. But yeah, I'm like I can just think of 6-point games from Mikko. So it's crazy.
So he joins the 300 goal club, joins Goulet, Peter Stastny, not Paul Stastny, Milan Hajduk, and Joe Sakic in that 300 goal club. And then this point streak, the longest in Avs history is 20, and that's by Paul Stastny, who just retired, obviously, we know, Peter's son. So there's some Stastny history going on there last night, too. It's just kind of hard to keep straight because for a Thursday night in December, Rachel, 6-4 win, game they had to have, it really did have a lot going on.
It did. And honestly, it's like the perfect timing, right? Again, we're like, okay, holidays are coming up. I know there weren't a ton of people in the stands, but the people that did show up to Ball Arena got one heck of a show last night.
They really did. All right, a couple other things around the Avs that we need to talk about. Let's go to Devon Toews, because on Tuesday night after the loss in Chicago, a bad loss, a 3-2 loss to the Blackhawks, brought back memories of last year when they had a bad loss in Chicago around this same time and then went on a tear. Devon ripped his teammates. I know you talked a lot about this on Coffee Break.
Yep.
I believe the quote was, guys are kidding themselves if they think they're playing good hockey. Yep. Fill us in on your take on, is this okay for Devon to do? Has he been here long enough of a leader, or did you not like him doing it publicly?
You know, honestly, even as just an Avalanche fan, I'm not sure how to feel about this team this season. It feels like we're constantly on this roller coaster, which is exhausting. And it's like, all right, I'm done being on this roller coaster. You have so many stars on this team. We need like a few more, I hate to call them like non-stars, but like the backup guys, right? That you really just need to be able to come in here and help out the main guys. And so it's this roller coaster of emotions that I feel like, I'm like, why are you losing to the Chicago Blackhawks? Like, truthfully, like you shouldn't have lost that game. Like, let's just call it what it is. And I don't mind Devon Toews doing that. I think there are bigger things going on in the locker room that we're not aware of. Even Nathan MacKinnon's first goal last night, I'm not exactly sure 100% who was out on the line with him, but his facial expression for, getting the first one in the net, I was like, I expect him to be really happy. And he was just kind of muted, and he just like went over, did all the high fives, the handshakes, whatever. And I was just kind of like, oh, but then the other goals that he got on the night was with Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen, and Devon Toews, like the core guys out there, and he had huge smiles on his face. So that's just me like diving into it a little bit, kind of paying attention with what we know is going on behind the scenes. But I don't blame Devon Toews for being like, no. And I do think it's the separation of, I won the cup. There are some guys here who all won the cup together. We know what it takes. You're now here and you haven't won the cup. So like you need to listen. And I think it's a little more chippy than a lot of us are realizing, because even Jared Bednar, who's talked about it, like he kind of supported Devon Toews and saying, yeah, like there are some issues that are arising essentially. I'm sick of it. So I can't imagine having the emotions and going through all of the travel and doing all that together and, not getting the result you want.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Zach By made a really good case on 104.3 The Fan the other night. He said, what happened with Valeri Nichushkin in the playoffs last year was not normal. We can't say that's normal. And then about a month ago, you got Jared Bednar just ripping his team, destroying his team, Michael Malone style. Well, Jared Bednar never talks about his team like that, so that's not normal. Then about 2 weeks ago, you got Mikko Rantanen picking fights with Arturi Lekkonen's dad, cussing up in an interview because Arturi Lekkonen's dad is a media member in Finland and ripped him in the media. And then you've got Devon Toews in Chicago 3 nights ago, saying guys are kidding themselves if they think they're playing well. And I was driving down the road, Rachel, when Zach was saying all this, and I was like, whoa. Yeah. This team in 2022 had no drama, no issues, 16-4 in the playoffs, most united bunch I've ever seen or covered in my professional sports career. I mean, just clicking on all cylinders.
Yep.
And then when Zach laid that case out, it was like, yeah, a lot of drama around the Avs in the last, I don't know, call it 9 months if you want to include the Nichushkin stuff. And really in the last month, I just went with the 3 incidents of the Bednar rip job, the weird Mikko Arturi dad thing, and the Toews comments in Chicago. Something's a little amiss, to your point.
That Mikko thing is just so bizarre. I'm sorry, but even if you're a media member, I would never comment on a team that my son is playing on. And like, to a certain degree, I feel like you have to, but his comments were kind of just harsh. I was shocked. You know, like, we both obviously do this for a living. I can't imagine if my son was like playing, you know, my future son, just so everyone's aware, I don't have kids, but my future son was playing in a hockey league and I was like destroying somebody else. I just can't imagine doing that. And it kind of shows you, I don't know. I just don't believe that their relationship is like rock solid, right? Like, I feel like it's just weird.
Mikko and Arturi like grew up together and by all accounts are like really good friends. So clearly, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, but clearly his father like knows Mikko well. So to your point, it's like super strange to like just go destroy him and say he had a lazy summer. It's like, do you have an ounce of respect for like one of your son's good friends? And oh, by the way, a top 10 player in the NHL? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it was so weird. They're just, and to your point too, and Zach, like, there's so much drama that this team has gone through. And I don't know, I think because they were so tight-knit back in 2022 that it was just like all of it, you know, it was like one banded brothers. And I do think because the Avs have been, you know, favorites for so long to win the Stanley Cup coming into the season, I don't know if they're right now the favorites to win, but I know they're up there. I mean, you do have people that come over and they just think it's going to be quote unquote an easy ride sometimes, right? We all do that. That's just part of the nature of like, oh, well, these guys will be able to carry us. I just need to go out there and play hockey. But no, you have to play Avalanche hockey. Like, that's how you're able to win these games. There's a weird vibe with the Colorado Avalanche, and I never thought we would be talking about it. Yeah,
and guys like Tomas Tatar, they expected him to come in and score 20 goals, and guess what? You got 1 goal in 20 games. See you later, dude, for a 5th round pick. That's nothing. Either get on board or get out of town. We'll see if that's part of a bigger move later on with the little more than $1 million they saved on the cap. We're running up against it, so I want to finish on a happy note, and that is Samuel Girard, back on the ice at Ball Arena yesterday morning. He was in the NHLPA Players Assistance Program. Mm-hmm. Sammy G's statement released a statement, I'm paraphrasing, anxiety, depression led to alcohol abuse. He got that all addressed. How good was it to see Samuel Girard back with the team? Not on the ice yet because Bednar said they're going to treat it like an injury. He's going to need some time, but I thought overall very cool that he took the necessary steps to get some help and address his physical and mental health.
First of all, the video of Logan O'Connor going up to him just warmed my heart yesterday at morning skate. It made me so happy. But I love to, you know, we're talking about the holiday break with the NHL. Like, how often do you see players that are just step away on their own? Like, they're not forced, right? Like in the NBA or the NFL, we see players that are forced to walk away. But it feels like in the NHL, they're so supportive and they have these players. Now, granted, it could have been forced and the NHL was like, you need to get it together a little bit. But it seemed like it was really him who's, you know, kind of took a step back and say, I'm not right now. I need to walk away. And I think that's so inspiring to myself. I think to the younger generations of the kids that are watching, for a professional athlete to recognize that, you know, he's not in the best mental headspace and to say, I'm going to walk away from the game. And for the Avalanche to allow him to do that and take the leave to do it. I just think it's so incredible, Will. And it's really inspiring to a point where I'm like, I'm rooting for the NHL even harder.
Yeah, no, I think all that was well said. It's cool to ask for help in a sense, right? Like it should not be a stigma around it. It's not your fault. It's the adult thing to do. So kudos to Sammy G. I expect him back probably after the break, Rachel. You know, Bednar said we'll treat it like an injury. I don't know if he'll play tomorrow night against Arizona, but he'll get his legs back under him, get back on the ice, and hopefully he can put this chapter behind him. Courageous stuff from Mr. Girard. Rachel, real quick before we get out of here, they going to give us an early Christmas present tomorrow night against the Coyotes?
Gosh, I sure hope so. Let's go, baby. Let's keep this win streak rolling because Lord knows I'm ready to get off this roller coaster. I'm ready to just have like the ending, right? Where it's nice, smooth ride before we head into the playoffs. I know we got a couple months, but I'm ready for it. I'm like, all right, let's just smooth ride this thing.
Let's just put it this way. Christmas at the MacKinnon household will be a little happier if they win on the 23rd. I think it'll be happier for all the Avs. If they get open presents with their family, coming off a couple of wins in a row, and then they get a couple of well-earned days off. All right, appreciate you tuning in to Mile High Hockey. Mike will be back next time. She's Rachel. I'm Will. Talk to you soon.